It is fitting that the 20th anniversary of the Hagerstown Community College tribute honors Rebecca Jones in the memory of our Benjamin Jones. Together, they have supported HCC in providing student scholarships by sitting on the foundation board, in naming a classroom in the newly constructed STEM building, and in providing paintings for their many art shows, 14 to be exact. It is apparent that contributing to higher education is a priority for this family. Ben was an asset to this community since his arrival in 1966. His ministry, teaching, and artistic contributions touched and influenced many lives. Ben's professional life began with seminary in Pittsburgh to become a Presbyterian minister. As he struggled to gain his identity in his profession, he told this story on himself with great humility in his quest for resources at the Morningside Church.
I got this little church, Morningside Presbyterian Church, and I was going over for the first meeting with the session, and they were going to see if they wanted to have me. And I couldn't be a moderator, it had to be some other minister ordained, so they got this guy from down the street. His name was John Earl Myers. Myers came in, and I was at the meeting, and John Earl Myers walked up to me with a great big smile on his face and grabbed my hand and said, "Ben, how are you? Good to meet you." And I said, "I'm fine, Reverend Myers." "Oh, call me John." "Oh, yes, well, John, I'm fine." And he said, "What family do you have?" Let's see, my father is drunk most of the time. My mother has died, and I've got a sloppy, stupid stepmother. My father's not the mayor of the town. He didn't teach school. He wasn't, I thought, what am I going to tell this man about what family I've got? And I went back into my mind. I saw myself running down aisles with computer information, and I knew my father said something about on the Eastern Shore, somewhere in Trapp, Maryland, there was some cousin of his, or a second cousin, who was on the board of a bank. And I said, that's it. Stuck it in my head, and out of my mouth came the words, I have an uncle that owns a bank on the Eastern Shore. 26 years old. He looked at me as if to say, what the hell are you talking about? And I knew within 20 seconds that he was asking about, do you have a wife? Do you have any children? But I was so set up to be judged and criticized because of being a nobody that I had to lie about being somebody, and I said that absurd thing.
Ben was a beloved minister at Covenant Presbyterian Church for 13 years. Here he spent many hours giving pastoral care and preaching sermons that provoked thought and developed perspective for one to consider during the coming week.
The most important thing in our life is perspective. By that I mean what is important and what is not. And if you know what's important and you major in that and you focus your life on that and center your being on what is urgently important, everything else falls away. It doesn't go away, but it's like concentric circles of a stone in a pond. The center splash is the heart of my life and my whole being. Then this one's fairly important too, so is this, but on the 32nd ring, who's the guy, don't sweat the small stuff? And then he puts as a subtitle, it's all small stuff. I think perspective is the most important thing of all.
Ben's love of teaching, whether it was in literature, music, or painting, was a driving force which culminated in his years of teaching at St. James in religious studies, at MCI in philosophy, and at HCC in the humanities.
Now, I believe that the arts have a lot to do with this, and it's my field. That's what I do full time. But more than that, when I taught at the community college, I just loved this course. The class was based on the idea that the arts, in all forms, from the simplest to the most complicated, have the capacity to nourish the human spirit. I developed a seat-of-the-pants definition of the arts, which I kind of liked, and it was a working definition. That is, it could be improved and altered with somebody else's input. It goes like this. Everyone sees, but of those who see, some see more deeply. That is to say, they perceive something that they see. And of that group, some of them are talented or gifted, some would even say cursed, to be able to record what they see in order that the rest of us may see.
After retiring from Covenant, Ben spent time at churches in Taneytown and Emmitsburg, where he met Becky, his soulmate.
I was living in Ohio with my 3 daughters, Terry, Laura, and Cindy, and I was working as a nurse in a hand surgeon's office in Akron. And at the same time, Ben was a minister at the Presbyterian Church in Emmitsburg, where my family had attended for generations. My mother had died, and I made frequent visits to Emmitsburg to see my father. And after the service, church service one Sunday morning, my father invited Ben down to lunch, and he stayed all afternoon. And then we went out for dinner that evening. We had a wonderful time. So whenever I would come home to visit my father, Ben and I would get together, and then he began coming to Ohio. And in September of 1988, he asked me to marry him. And I said yes before he could change his mind. And we began thinking about a life together and where that would be. And the following June of 1989, we were married in Emmitsburg and began our life together here in Hagerstown.
Ben's most visible legacy is in the body of artwork he created. Early on, he showed his work mainly in the New England area, and then later, locally in galleries and schools, in the Maryland Theater, in the museum, and finally at art shows here at the Kepler Theater, through the foundation board that raises money for scholarships for students.
I became involved in Ben's artwork mainly when we began having shows locally. And I took an interest in learning how to make a frame. And so I found a man in Rockville, who did conservation framing for the National Gallery of Art. And I took classes from him, and he taught me the proper method to use, proper materials, and I began making frames. I made every mistake you could possibly make in putting a frame together. I put 2 long sticks together, too short. Then I would put a nail through the top, a nail through the bottom, nails through the side. I would glue the wrong sides together. Finally, in doing it over and over, I learned how to make a proper frame. My role at HCC began with organizing the art shows in the Kepler Theater. We wanted to do something to provide the opportunity for more students to have this experience. So when our then son-in-law, Pete Lowe, approached us about the possibility of having an art show through the foundation board, of which he was a member, we were very excited about doing that. Ben and I dedicated ourselves to having annual fall art shows that would fund scholarships for students.
It is with appreciation and gratitude that we honor Ben's memory and Becky's continual support and commitment to students of HCC in their pursuit of a higher education.